My name is Madison. I'm 29 and my fiance Jake is 30. We've been together for 5 years and got engaged last April. Jake isn't just my boyfriend, he's my best friend and the most supportive person I've ever known. When he got down on one knee during a quiet night at home, it felt like everything in my life finally clicked into place. But the happiness was short-lived. As soon as I shared the news, my mother, Linda, 54, and my half-sister, Haley, 23, turned my engagement and upcoming wedding into a battleground for their own issues. My mom married her husband, Tom, when I was 6. Haley is their daughter. Even though we grew up in the same house, we've never been close, more like acquaintances forced to tolerate each other. Haley's had a competitive streak with me since childhood. If I got better grades or received praise from family, she'd throw a fit. As we grew older, this rivalry only intensified. I earned a scholarship to college while Haley didn't pursue higher education. I've been with Jake for years, but she bounced from one tumultuous relationship to another. Now with my engagement, Haley acted as if my happiness was a personal challenge she needed to win. Not long after I announced it, she rushed into a marriage with a man none of us knew well, and just a few months later filed for divorce after he cheated on her with her best friend. I tried to be supportive, but Haley was cold and distant. It became clear she wasn't seeking support, but rather blaming me for her failures, convinced my engagement forced her into a hasty marriage. Jake and I chose to hold a small, intimate wedding in January with about 65 guests, just close family and friends. I thought my family would share my excitement, but when I told my mom, her first words weren't congratulations. "Oh, Haley won't like this," she said. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. My engagement was apparently going to hurt Haley's feelings because she was still recovering from her divorce and struggling to rebuild her life. I pushed the worry aside and kept planning, unaware this was just the beginning of a long battle with my mother and sister over my wedding day. A few weeks after the engagement announcement, Haley shocked everyone by declaring she was getting married to a guy she'd only been dating for 3 months. I didn't want to judge, but it felt reckless. Haley's impulsive nature was no secret, and rushing into marriage with someone virtually unknown only added to my concerns. 2 months later, that marriage collapsed. Haley's husband cheated on her with her best friend. The whole situation was messy and heartbreaking. I genuinely felt sorry for her and I tried reaching out with support. But Haley shut me out completely, giving me the cold shoulder as if I were the enemy. It became obvious that Haley wasn't interested in healing or rebuilding relationships. She seemed determined to blame me for her troubles, thinking my engagement announcement had somehow triggered her rushed marriage and subsequent heartbreak. By autumn, the atmosphere at home was thick with tension. Haley and I barely spoke, and my mom, Linda, became increasingly distant whenever I brought up wedding plans. She'd either get quiet or quickly change the subject. I should have seen the warning signs sooner, but nothing prepares you for being guilt-tripped over your own wedding. I imagined planning a wedding would be stressful due to budgets and logistics, not because your own family would weaponize it against you. Then came mid-November when Jake and I sent out our wedding invitations. For a moment, I felt excited, like everything was finally falling into place. 2 days later, I received a call from my mom. Linda hardly ever called, texts were more her style, so I assumed she might want to discuss something wedding-related. But the conversation took an unexpected turn. She asked how I and Jake were, then casually said, "So you're really going through with the wedding?" When I confirmed everything was set, the venue booked, the caterer hired, deposits paid, she let out a dramatic sigh that screamed, "You're about to ruin someone's life." Then she dropped the bomb. She thought I should reconsider the wedding because Haley was still heartbroken from her divorce. A big celebration would be insensitive and might hurt her feelings even more. I was stunned. "Mom, you want me to cancel my wedding for Haley?" "Yes," she said, as if it were the most reasonable request. "She's been through so much. Seeing you get married so soon after her breakup will only make it worse." I tried to reason with her. We'd been planning this day for almost a year. Everything was booked and paid for. Canceling wasn't just impractical, it was heartbreaking. Linda suggested we could do a small, simple ceremony with just immediate family. That way I'd still be married, but it wouldn't be a big event to flaunt it. Flaunt, I asked, baffled. This day wasn't about showing off, it was about celebrating my love with Jake. She sighed again, heavier this time, pleading, "If you loved your sister, you'd do this for her. She needs time to heal." I was furious but tried to keep my cool. "Mom, I get Haley's going through a rough patch, but this isn't about her. Jake and I have been planning this for years. It's unfair to ask us to change everything because of her." She didn't like that. "Her choice is Madison," she said coldly. "She didn't choose to have her husband cheat on her. She didn't choose for her life to fall apart." I couldn't stay silent. "Yes, but she did choose to marry a man she barely knew after 3 months," I said firmly. That was the last straw for my mom. She accused me of being cruel, selfish, and not understanding what Haley had gone through. She even said I thought I raised you better than this. That was it. I hung up, shaking with anger, and called Jake to tell him everything. He was as stunned as I was. Who asks their own daughter to cancel her wedding for someone else's divorce? Over the following weeks, my mom doubled down on trying to guilt me into canceling or scaling down the wedding. She would call almost every few days, repeating the same lines. Haley was heartbroken I was being insensitive, and a smaller wedding would mean so much to the family. At one point, she even tried to get Jake involved. She called him directly and said, "Jake, you're such a thoughtful guy. I'm sure you understand why this is so important for Haley." Thankfully, Jake shut her down right away, telling her we were sticking to our plans and that our wedding was about our day, not about anyone else's feelings. Then Haley got involved personally. She began texting me passive-aggressive comments like, "Must be nice to have everything go perfectly for you," or, "Are you sure you picked January just to rub it in my face?" The audacity stunned me. I tried ignoring her at first, but the messages only escalated. She started calling, leaving long voicemails filled with guilt-tripping about how hard it was for her to even think about weddings, and how my insensitivity was making her healing process worse. The worst part was how my mom and Haley fed off each other's drama. Mom would call to say Haley cried all night because of your wedding. Then Haley would text me the next day, "Mom is so upset about how you're handling this." I was at my breaking point. I couldn't believe how far they were willing to go to make my wedding about them. It was clear now this wasn't about Haley's divorce or her feelings. It was about control. They wanted me to put my life on hold to cater to their insecurities, and I was done letting them dictate my happiness. By December, things spiraled even further out of control. Haley was no longer content with sulking privately or sending passive-aggressive messages. She launched a campaign to smear my name among family and friends. Through cousin Megan, who was reluctantly the family informant, I heard Haley had been calling relatives warning them I was flaunting my wedding to humiliate her. She even claimed I had intentionally chosen the January date, knowing it would be too soon after her divorce for anyone to emotionally handle it. I couldn't comprehend the logic. My engagement and wedding plans had been in place long before Haley's marriage and divorce. But logic didn't matter. Haley kept spinning her victim story, painting me as the one who was jealous and cruel, rubbing her perfect little life in her face. Some family members bought into her narrative, including my mom. She kept calling me almost daily, pleading for me to reconsider, saying Haley was fragile and that I should do this for her. Every time I stood firm, but the constant barrage of drama wore me down. Then came the family Christmas gathering. Jake and I had been invited to my aunt's house, and though Haley and my mom were there, I hoped for a peaceful evening. It wasn't to be. From the start, Haley barely acknowledged me, and whenever I mentioned the wedding, she huffed or rolled her eyes. At one point, while chatting with my aunt about flowers, Haley muttered loudly, "Must be nice to waste so much money on a party when some people can barely pick up the pieces of their lives." I ignored her, but it was clear she wanted a reaction. Later, she suddenly broke down in tears, crying and muttering about how cruel people can be, how she's been through so much, and how my wedding was making her pain worse. My mom immediately jumped in to comfort her, telling me I needed to be more considerate and that I had no idea how hard this was for Haley. That was the breaking point. I couldn't hold back any longer. "This wedding isn't about Haley," I said firmly. "Jake and I have planned it for a year. If she's upset, that's not my fault. Maybe she should take responsibility for rushing into a bad marriage instead of blaming me." The room went silent. Haley's tears turned to anger. "How dare you," she snapped. "You don't know what it's like to have your life fall apart. You've had everything handed to you. Your scholarship, your boyfriend, your perfect life." I stood up, shaking with anger. "You're right," I said. "I don't know what it's like to have my life fall apart because I don't make impulsive decisions just to compete with people. Maybe if you spent less time being bitter and more time working on yourself, you wouldn't be in this situation." Jake grabbed my hand and said, "We're leaving." As we drove away, I replayed the argument in my head, wondering if I'd been too harsh. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had every right to stand up for myself. Haley had been pushing for weeks, and I was done letting her turn my wedding into her pity party. What hurt the most was my mom immediately siding with Haley, never once trying to understand my perspective or the stress they were causing me. It was clear who her favorite was, and it wasn't me. The day after the Christmas gathering, I received a text from my mom demanding I apologize to Haley for what I had said the night before. She insisted Haley had been through so much and that I was unnecessarily cruel. I didn't reply. I was done apologizing for things that weren't my fault. At this point, it was obvious that Haley wasn't going to back down, and Mom wasn't going to stop enabling her. I had no idea what their next move would be, but I knew I had to prepare for the worst. Thanks to all the support and advice I'd received from friends and even some family members, I realized ignoring their toxicity wasn't working. Every attempt to defend myself only fueled the drama. So I came to a tough but necessary decision. I had to completely shut them out of the wedding. It wasn't easy. Cutting off my own mother and sister from one of the most important days of my life felt daunting. But their behavior was so toxic, it overshadowed everything Jake and I had worked for. 2 days after the family dinner, I sat down with Jake and told him I think I need to uninvite Mom and Haley. They're only going to make things worse if they're there. Jake nodded without hesitation. "I've been thinking the same thing. It sucks, but this is your day, our day, and you deserve to enjoy it without worrying about what they'll do next." His support lifted a weight off my shoulders, but the idea of cutting ties with my own family was still hard to accept. Still, I knew I couldn't let their toxic drama ruin our wedding. So I drafted an email to Mom and Haley. I kept it short and factual, explaining that their repeated rumors, guilt trips, and drama had made it clear they weren't supportive of my wedding. I told them their behavior caused me significant stress, and for my own peace of mind, I was uninviting them from the ceremony. After hitting send, I immediately felt a sense of relief, like a burden had been lifted. But the backlash came fast. Mom's reply was full of theatrics, calling me cold-hearted and accusing me of tearing the family apart. She even said I had chosen Jake over my own blood and claimed that Dad would be disappointed if he were still alive. Classic guilt trip tactics. I didn't respond. Haley's reply was angry and full of self-pity. She accused me of jealousy and claimed I was punishing her for being honest about her feelings. Her email ended with a warning that I would regret destroying our family. Again, I said nothing. But the fallout wasn't over. Over the next few days, calls and texts flooded in from other relatives, mostly those Mom and Haley had poisoned against me. My uncle told me I was being immature and should just let it go for family harmony. A cousin I barely knew left a voicemail calling me ungrateful and accusing me of betraying my mother. At first I was overwhelmed, but then something beautiful happened. The people who truly mattered showed up. My dad's sister, Aunt Laura, called to tell me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. "You've put up with their nonsense for too long," she said. "It's about time you put your foot down." My cousin Megan, who'd been following the drama closely, texted me, "I knew Haley was trouble, but this is next level. Good for you for cutting her off." Even my godmother, a no-nonsense woman known for her blunt honesty, called to say I was doing the right thing. She said your wedding should be about love and celebration, not drama and bitterness. Their support was a balm for my soul. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. But Mom and Haley refused to go quietly. About a week after I sent the email, Megan called with a new bombshell. "Cassie's telling people you uninvited her because you're threatened by her." I laughed. Threatened by what? Apparently, Haley was spinning a wild story that I was worried Jake had feelings for her, and that's why I was trying to get rid of her. Ridiculous as it was infuriating that she dragged Jake into her lies. Megan assured me most people didn't believe it, but Haley would keep spinning her tale until someone gullible took her side. I decided not to waste more energy on her delusions. By now, my focus was protecting my peace and making sure our wedding day went smoothly. Jake and I carefully reviewed the guest list again and finalized details with the venue. We let them know about the situation and made sure security would be on alert if Haley or Mom tried to show up uninvited. We even hired extra security guards just to be safe. It felt extreme, but after everything they'd done, I wasn't taking any chances. Through it all, Jake was my rock, reminding me this was our day, and we owed no one explanations for protecting our happiness. As New Year's approached, I finally felt like I was regaining control. Haley and Mom could spin their stories all they wanted, but they wouldn't ruin our wedding. January arrived, and with it the wedding day that Jake and I had been dreaming of for so long. Despite all the tension and drama leading up to it, the morning was nothing short of magical. The venue was breathtaking, adorned with the flowers and decorations we had carefully chosen throughout the past year. The soft sunlight poured through the windows, casting a warm glow over the room. My bridesmaids kept me laughing and calm as I got ready, helping me with every detail from the dress to the makeup. Jake and I agreed to have a private first look in the garden before the ceremony. As I stepped outside, seeing him standing there with a mixture of nervousness and joy instantly washed away the stress that had been weighing on me. At that moment, it was just us two people in love ready to start a new chapter together. But then, about 30 minutes before the ceremony, my maid of honor, Amanda, burst into the bridal suite looking frantic. "You're not going to believe this," she said breathlessly. "Mom and Haley are here." My heart sank. How did they even get in? I thought security was on it. Amanda explained they were causing a huge scene outside trying to force their way in. Of course, I muttered, trying to steady myself. "What are they saying?" I asked. Amanda hesitated, then said, "Your mom's crying, saying she just wants to see you get married. Haley's yelling that you're a horrible person who doesn't deserve this day." I felt anger rise inside me, but I knew reacting would only feed their chaos. "Don't go out there," I told Amanda firmly. "Let security handle it." She nodded and left to check with the guards. I sat down, taking deep breaths to calm my racing mind. Through the walls, I could faintly hear my mother and sister shouting and arguing with security. It took every ounce of willpower not to storm out and confront them. Minutes later, Amanda returned reporting that Mom and Haley refused to leave. The venue manager was even considering calling the police, but worried it might escalate things further. I groaned inwardly. This was exactly why I had uninvited them. Amanda asked, "Do you want me to tell Jake?" I shook my head. "No, he doesn't need this stress right now. Just keep them away from the ceremony." Thankfully, security managed to contain the situation in the parking lot. Eventually, a ride service arrived to take them away. Before leaving, Haley shouted loud enough for many guests to hear, "You'll regret this, Emily. You'll regret cutting your family out." I closed my eyes and told myself to let it go. They were out of sight, and I refused to let them steal my joy. The ceremony itself was everything I'd hoped for and more. Standing beside Jake, surrounded by friends and family who truly cared, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. The drama and bitterness melted away in the face of pure happiness. During the cocktail hour, whispers of what had happened outside reached me. Guests had overheard Mom and Haley's accusations from the parking lot. Most rolled their eyes and dismissed it. My Aunt Laura came up to me at dinner saying, "I'm so proud of you for standing your ground." They revealed their true colors today, and everyone sees it now. Similar sentiments echoed throughout the evening. Friends, cousins, and even some of Mom's old acquaintances pulled me aside to express their support. It felt like a collective reckoning, a moment when people finally recognized the toxicity Mom and Haley brought. The night flew by with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Jake and I shared our first dance under twinkling lights. My maid of honor gave a hilarious and touching speech that had everyone smiling. By the time the evening ended, I felt lighter than I had in months. Mom and Haley hadn't won. Their attempts to ruin my day only highlighted the love and support Jake and I had from those who truly mattered. Back at the hotel that night, I saw dozens of missed calls and texts from Mom. I didn't read a single one. I was done letting them occupy any space in my life. Cutting them out was one of the hardest choices I'd ever made, but standing there with Jake, surrounded by love, I knew it was the right one. About a week after our wedding, the family drama didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. I received a call from my cousin Megan, the unofficial family newswire. "You won't believe what just happened," she said, her voice a mix of amusement and disbelief. "What now?" I sighed, bracing myself. Megan told me that Haley and Mom had a massive fight, like an epic showdown. I blinked in surprise. "Wait, what happened?" Well, after the wedding, Haley was sulking around Mom's house, bitter that her plan to sabotage the day had failed. She was blaming everyone, me, Jake's security, even some cousin who tried to intervene. "And Mom?" I asked. She snapped. Haley accused her of not doing enough to stop the wedding. Megan chuckled. Mom finally hit her breaking point. She yelled that she was tired of the drama and that Haley needed to take responsibility for her own life. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. The same woman who had defended Haley through all her nonsense was now fed up. "Did Mom really kick her out?" I asked. "Yeah," Megan confirmed. "Haley's staying with a friend for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if she comes crawling back." It felt like poetic justice, their toxicity turning inward and devouring itself. I wished I could say I felt bad for either of them, but honestly, I didn't. After everything they put me through, this felt like karma in action. I'd blocked their numbers and muted them on social media. I also made it clear to the rest of the family that I wasn't interested in their latest antics. Jake and I focused on starting our new life together, free from their chaos. Even with the toxic aftermath, I felt a deep sense of peace. I knew I'd made the right choice, even if it meant losing part of my family. Through all the struggles, I realized that sometimes protecting your happiness means walking away from those who bring you down. The love and support from true family and friends, those who genuinely care, is what matters most. And as Jake and I look toward the future, I'm grateful to finally have a clean slate, a chance to build a life filled with love, joy, and peace on my own terms. The days and weeks following the wedding marked a turning point in my life. With Haley and Mom cut off, the weight of their drama lifted from my shoulders. Jake and I threw ourselves into planning our future together, setting up our new home, dreaming about trips we'd take, and simply enjoying the freedom to focus on each other. The absence of family toxicity was a blessing I hadn't realized I needed until it was gone. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected over the years, rediscovered old hobbies, and even started therapy to heal from the emotional scars left behind. It wasn't easy. Letting go of the hope that my mother and sister would change or accept me was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. But I learned that self-love and self-respect means setting boundaries even when it hurts. My close friends and Jake became my chosen family. Their unconditional support helped me rebuild my confidence and trust in relationships. I found peace in knowing that love isn't just about blood ties, but about who shows up for you and stands by your side. Meanwhile, Mom and Haley's absence became a catalyst for reflection on my part. I recognized patterns I vowed never to repeat in my own future family. I promised myself that when Jake and I start a family, it would be one built on respect, support, and encouragement, not competition or manipulation. Looking back, I'm proud of the strength it took to stand up for myself and protect my happiness. My wedding day was more than a ceremony. It was a declaration of self-worth and resilience. It symbolized a break from the toxic cycle and a step toward the life I deserve. If sharing my story helps even one person see that sometimes the hardest choices are the most necessary, then it's worth it. I'm excited for the next chapter, ready to face it with courage and surrounded by people who genuinely love me. This is my story, a journey of overcoming family toxicity, standing my ground, and finding true happiness on my own terms.